Awesome. And then, so you've mentioned a couple of times how you need to be careful to not have not just boring outputs or too bizarre of outputs, but also just inappropriate outputs. So ones either that don't make sense or actually contain content that is, explicit or otherwise undesirable. Mm-hmm. And so there might be that kind of language in the training data set, or it might just happen by accident. Mm-hmm. So what kinds of safeguards do you put into place with a product like this to ensure that anyone who uses it, including the children who use it, don't get exposed to these nonsense or inappropriate outputs?
Yeah, and I think it's worth saying explicitly to you that all of the pre-trained large language models are trained off, all the language they can find on the internet and then some,
Reddit.
Right? And Reddit. And so it is full of crap. And that crap gets magnified. And it is very easy to evoke that crap without trying. And that is not good. And there is no, right. I'm fairly comfortable saying there is no way to fix it. Like, you can do a lot to try and prune the training data, but it doesn't solve the problem. And so then we think about, okay, if we have this thing that can, let's say, generate a bunch of useful stuff, but we can never put that in front of a human being, much less, a teenager or somebody, who's 10 years old, right? What do we build around that system so that we are always monitoring it? And then how do we use it in an architecture such that we're able to use it to create a product, but with a fairly high level of confidence in what the product can output? So in our particular case, we do all of our generation of language offline, templatize it, and then only fill those templates with words that come out of a dictionary that we have vetted. We have vetted, curated, and it's a dictionary that is itself derived from data, but at least there's been a set of eyes on it. And now, of course, templates can get filled with combinations of words that can be problematic in that combination, and so you also can classify things against known problematic language. And then there are issues. Well, this also, I think at one point in the introduction, Jared mentioned I've been around for a long time, right? So we've actually done language generation stuff for a very long time. I worked on it extensively in 2014. This is how we did it then, before we had transformers. We had these other generative models, right? So it is not a novel approach. It's just sort of going back to our roots and now combining things where we may end up with tens of thousands of candidate sentences generated that are now templatized that can then be used in a production environment. It also has the side effect from a data practitioner point of view of turning what is an open-ended generation problem with no notion of what correct or goodness looks like into a ranking problem, where we can indeed have a notion of what correct and good can look like, which makes me as a data scientist very happy. I like ranking problems. They're a lot easier to solve than open-ended generation problems, and it also gives us a lot of control over what the output of the system is. Now, that control comes at a sacrifice of generalizability. So if you start to ask our system things like who won the World Series in 1995, we are not going to have a template pre-generated for that. That's not something that exists in the world that we've built our content around, and so it won't work. So you do have some trade-offs there.